Senator Vitter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Again, as I said at the beginning, I have the real concern that I think is shared by a lot of committee members that the changes and reforms FHA has made, you're talking about today, aren't significant enough given the looming threat. And you say they're unprecedented. Both of those things could still be true. They could be more than ever before and still not enough given the magnitude of what we're talking about, and that's the concern. First of all, let's talk about the clear potential now for a taxpayer bailout. Is it not right that under the Federal Credit Reform Act, it would allow the Treasury to make necessary cash or credit transfers to FHA in order for them to continue making payments sort of automatically?
That's absolutely correct. That is the way not only FHA, but other similar programs are designed.
That's obviously significant for the taxpayer. We all care about that. Can you commit to us that you will keep us and the Congress fully apprised of your moving projections with regard to that, and certainly fully apprised when that happens?
I'm absolutely committed to make sure that if we're going to take that step, that you would be fully notified.
Well, my question was a little more than that. It was to keep us fully apprised of your current and updated projections toward that issue. Can you commit to us to give us that information, your best projections today and whenever that changes, and certainly if that's going to happen?
I do, and Senator, what I would suggest, we do provide a monthly report to Congress on the status of the fund. If there's additional information or somewhat different information that would be useful to you in that, we are very happy to work with you on that.
Okay. Well, what I'm talking about is, as of today, when do you project there's going to have to be a taxpayer-funded bailout? What's your best projection?
What I would say is our best projection will be contained in the President's budget. We are still working on the underlying economic assumptions that go into that, and so I don't have anything beyond what the actuary did that would be a different prediction today.
So today, within all of HUD and all of FHA, you have no best guess about that?
I'm not sure what you would suggest is a best guess, other than to say the actuarial report has a value of the fund as of the date it was performed. In addition to that, we expect about $11 billion of new revenue, and the changes that we've implemented, we believe, will bring billions of dollars of additional revenue to the FHA.
So based on all of that, do you expect a taxpayer bailout as we sit here today? If so, when?
Based on those steps, I believe we've have significantly decreased the chance of having a bailout at the end of 2013 or having to draw on the Treasury. I'm not going to assign a probability at this point because we are still working on the assumptions and other steps in the budget, and I will be able to give you a number when we've completed the budget projections.
Okay. Well, again, I want to re-ask for your best information about that as it develops. And unfortunately, we don't have that today. I think you all have some idea, some best guess. You're not giving it to us. I would really like that as soon as you can give it to us, and from then on an updated basis. With regard to changes that are being made, you just said they're unprecedented, and the proof is in the pudding, and the changes Mrs. Galante made in the last year stepped us back from that possibility. I just want to add for the record, there was another big factor, $1 billion in the AG settlement. That was just found money. It was a huge factor that had nothing to do with reforms or changes. But I also want to associate myself with Senator Corker's suggestions about a whole menu of things that we believe exists that y'all are not doing that I believe is warranted. There are several ways, and Senator Corker touched on this, that FHA has much laxer standards than Fannie and Freddie, and as a result, you are creating a huge magnet to draw the worst problem loans to FHA because of that. One of those is a maximum loan limit, and another is the issue he brought up of allowing a borrower to reborrow 3 years after a foreclosure. Fannie and Freddie, that's 4 to 7 years. On those two things and anything else like that, why wouldn't you align FHA with Fannie and Freddie to stop this negative selection that is occurring toward FHA?
Senator, two things I would just say. One is it's not accurate to say that the reason the fund remained positive last year was because of the settlement. The value at the end of the year was over $3 billion. If the settlement hadn't happened, we still would have been positive. And the second thing I would say is I don't see the settlement as unrelated to policy changes. Strong enforcement is part of what we need to do to make sure that we hold lenders accountable and that we minimize losses from those older books of business which are causing the stress to the fund. And so I believe very strongly it was the right policy decision. It is related to steps that we've taken, and even if it hadn't happened, we would have remained positive last year. So on loan limits, as I said before, we do not have the authority without Congress acting. The administration advocated that loan limits come down. I thought it was frankly perverse to keep Fannie and Freddie's, to bring Fannie and Freddie's loan limits down and not to lower FHA's at the same time, exactly for the reasons that you said. We are concerned that it would drive business to FHA that should go back to the private market. So I would urge you and others, I know you're supportive, but to work with your colleagues to try to do that as quickly as possible. And I do agree that we need to look at, and we are doing that, looking at the standards for how we allow borrowers who may have defaulted in the past to borrow. Again, I would say, though, we should not hold a responsible homeowner who has demonstrated their ability to pay back their debts and to be a homeowner, a successful homeowner, simply because they may have lost a job due to what is an unprecedented economic crisis that we've been through. So this is not just about timelines, it's about what the standards are for when we allow folks to borrow.
Well, my broader point is this and several other factors should also be about doing it in a way that you're aware of what competing opportunities rules are, like Fannie and Freddie. And if FHA has laxer standards, I mean, clearly you're going to encourage the accumulation of weaker loans. I think that's obvious.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the things that we announced just a few weeks ago with the actuarial report is that we are implementing standards on short sales that are aligned with what Fannie and Freddie are doing. So we are looking for opportunities wherever we can to try to align those standards. That doesn't mean on everything that we should be identical to them, but aligning where appropriate makes great sense.
And as I understand it, another significant factor in terms of potential loss is the whole reverse mortgage program, which is projected to be a drain on the system, even in the best economic circumstances. And as I understand it, FHA has the authority to suspend that program. It's a huge profit center for folks who participate in the private sector. It's costing the taxpayer money, essentially, or threatening exposure in the best of times. Why wouldn't we suspend that tomorrow?
That is an option that we are clearly looking at. We believe there is a better option, which would be to get legislative reform to allow us to implement a better product. That is something, as I talked about with Senator Corker, we'd love to work with you on the next few weeks. The House has passed an FHA reform bill. We'd love to be able to do something even in this session of Congress before the ranking member leaves. That's an area.
Senator Vitter, please begin to wrap it up.
Sure, I'll wrap it up very quickly. Let me suggest melding those two ideas together. I think if you suspend that program tomorrow, you'll start saving the taxpayer money and create more pressure for the reform you're describing. Thank you.